Let's dive into our power rankings going into week 4. I have a change at my number 1 team going into week 4, and it's the Buffalo Bills, baby. They've been dominating everyone they've played so far. I mean, other than the first half of the first game against the Cardinals, they've been dominant since then. I think they're the best team that I've watched on both sides of the football overall through the first 3 weeks of the NFL season.
Yeah, I agree. I don't agree with the spot because I have Kansas City still at my number 1. Like I said, until they get knocked off the mountaintop, I'm going to keep them there. But 3-0, I know they haven't looked great. Like I said in the episode, which we forgot to put this in, but it's okay. But Kansas City's still 3-0, but Mahomes isn't playing good. So I look to see a bit of a change with him and his play. But if they're 3-0 and he's playing not great, that's a good sign for Kansas City. So I have them in the 1 still.
Yeah, I have them right there at the 2. Like you said, they haven't been playing well, but they're still winning games. It's hard to lose when the refs give you every call. So, yeah, they're there.
Yeah, I have your number 1 spot. I have the Buffalo Bills. My 1 and 2 don't move from my last week's, power ranking. My 1 and 2 are still there. 3-0. Buffalo does look like on paper right now in the eye test as the best team in the NFL. They are smacking everybody, it feels like. So I have them at 2.
In my 3rd spot, I have the 3-0 of Vikings coming in at 3. Sam Darnold and that defense are getting it done. 3-0 Vikings in 3 spot for me.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I have them moving up 4 spots from last week. I think the win, even though they were at home, but beating Houston 34-7 is very impressive. I was kind of debating on them in my next slot at 4, which I'll say is Detroit. I have Detroit in my 4th spot. They move up 1 spot, but I was debating on which team, because I think in a playoff situation, I'd side with Detroit still with just coaching and quarterback. But as of right now, I'd give Minnesota the edge slightly. They've been playing really well. But Detroit 4 for me, 2 and 1.
Detroit in the 4. In the 4 spot, I actually have the Packers coming in the 4 spot. Inside the division here. I mean, love what Matt LaFleur is doing. If you go out and win 2 games with a backup quarterback and you're 2-0, like who does that in the NFL? Jordan Love's going to come back. Like the Packers are a top 5 team.
All right, that's fair, I guess. I mean, it is actually impressive winning 2 games with Willis, but I have the team that beat them week 1 at my 5. I have Philly, 2-1 Philly. I know that they, had that loss against Atlanta, but this team is easily should be 3-0. And they handled on the road a New Orleans team, that was pretty hot going into that game. So I like Philly. I like when they get healthy too. I think Hurts isn't playing that. I think the offense as a whole still has a lot of room to grow. So I have Philly in the 5 spot right now.
I have the Texans in the 5. Might have gotten a little exposed last week against the Vikings, but I think they're going to be fine. I still think they're a top 5 team. I think they bounce back this week, get a nice win, but I still think they're in the top 5.
Yeah, I have them followed up. I have Houston in the 6th spot, so I have Houston at 2-1. They did. Yeah, that was a rough game they had. I always forget, like, CJ's in his 2nd year. It's not even his 2nd year yet. We're at what? 1st year and 4 games going into. Like, I have to realize, like, this is a young team. They're playing really well overall. I know they, got crushed, but this is still a young team, a young coaching staff. Like, I still like them a lot. I think there's a lot of, like, they have a huge ceiling in Houston. So, but they do fall 3 spots for me.
In the 6th spot, I have the Lions coming in. The loss to the Bucs in week 2 kind of pushed them back a little bit for me, but overall, I think they're still really good. And they have, who do they play this week?
They who's their matchup?
They play the Seattle. Yeah, they have a big game on Monday Night Football, and that will tell us a lot about this Lions team.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams in the top 10 right now that I have that upcoming will show like Green Bay. They play Minnesota. Like that's a huge, kind of game. And speaking of Green Bay, they are my first newcomer to the top 10. I have them at 7. I moved them up, and I have the 2-1 Packers in the 7th spot. They're coming off that big win against Tennessee, like you said, backup quarterback. They've proven me wrong the last 2 weeks. I've picked against them. I do like LaFleur. I like the coaching staff, but I think defensively they're good. You know, they're definitely a top 10 team defensively. They showed that. So yeah, I think coaching, you know, they've done a great job. So I have them at 7.
I have the Eagles coming in my 7th spot. They're a little banged up, and I don't really love how the offense is playing outside of what Saquon's doing.
Yeah.
And their secondary on defense has some holes, but I still think that they're in the 7th spot. I like them there.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I have another newcomer, back to back newcomers. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. My Pittsburgh Steelers 3-0 coming off of a win against the Chargers, I guess. Was it the Chargers? I don't know. Everybody got hurt in like the first quarter, it felt like. But we are 3-0, and we do have the best defense in the NFL, and that is something. Defense wins championships. They deserve a spot. I probably could have even put them in last week, but I put the Chargers, and then we beat the Chargers. So I got them in at the A spot. So
My 8, I have the 49ers. I know they were banged up last week. Blew a pretty big lead against the Rams. But they get Debo back this week. They get Kittle back. I think they're going to be fine. I'm sure after they win, they beat the Patriots, I'll have them jumped up a little bit.
Yeah,
next week.
Yeah, I actually, in my 9 spot, I have New Orleans here. They fall for me. They fall 3 spots. And again, the only reason they fall 3, really, even though they're still 2-1, is because Pitt and Green Bay are newcomers for me. And the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Chargers are bounced out of my top 10. So I got New Orleans falling to 9. Still a good team. Still unsure of what they really are. Were the first 2 games a fluke? We don't know. We'll see. They have a big division game this week against Atlanta, right? I think.
Yeah, they go to Atlanta.
They go to Atlanta, yeah. So another big test, kind of show how they are, who they are. We'll see. But I got New Orleans at the 9. They fall 3 spots for me.
In the 9, I actually have the Jets coming in, creeping into the top 10. I really like how they played this week. I think they look good, and I think they're going to continue to get better. Their defense coming into the season was really highly rated. They haven't played as well, but I think as the season goes on, they get better. And Aaron Rodgers looks as good as ever. So I like the Jets.
Yeah, that's a good team. They're a good little sleeper team. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like 9 and 10 right now are kind of toss up. There's a lot of teams. There's Seattle, the Jets. You could even argue some other teams. Tampa Bay, I have them out of my top 10, but they could still even be top 10 team. But my 10th spot, I have San Francisco. I know that they're 1 and 2, so it's hard to keep a 1 and 2 team in the top 10. But of the 1 and 2 teams, they still have a really good coach, great coaching staff. And I think when healthy, they are a top 10 team. I think that if they get to 2 and 2 after this Sunday, it still proves to me that they're still a top 10 team with how depleted they are. There's some question marks on if Debo's going to play. George Kittle's supposed to play. So we'll see if they bounce back. But I got them at the 10. That's my 10. They fall 6 spots. That's a rough. They fall a lot. But I mean, they're depleted and they're 1 and 2. It's hard to keep a 1 and 2 team anywhere outside of even 10. So.
Yeah, rounding out my list, I have the Seahawks coming in at 10. I think they might be for real. I like what Mike McDonald's doing over there with the defense. Geno Smith's getting the boys ready to go. DK had a big game last week. Give me the Seahawks in the 10 spot, 3-0.
I like that pick a lot, actually. I like that because, again, 10 is hard. There's Seattle. There's the Jets. There's Tampa Bay, a healthy Chargers team. They're 2-1, so.
I could put my Ravens at the 10 spot. And
all right, let's relax. Let's relax here.
I mean, if the eye test, you look at the team, we smack Seattle's ass if we play them. They are getting ran.
Right. Oh, man. That's our top 10. A lot of I got a couple newcomers. He's got a couple newcomers. Some people falling, some people
Jets,
moving
Seahawks. That's it.
I have Green Bay, Pitt. Those are my newcomers. I had to show some love to my Pittsburgh. I had to. I can't hate on them all.
Although I didn't have the Vikings in the top 10 last time either.
Yeah, I was on that just by a week. I was on that by a week. I was ahead of that by a week. So that's our top 10 though. Like it.